Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership for TEPSA. And each episode, I look to bring you a different guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another, and invite them on to share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to tell some of yours. I'm thrilled this week to have my friend and brilliant educator and leader, Belinda George. Belinda, tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Hi, Todd. Thanks for having me. So I am Belinda George, and I'm a principal here in Beaumont, Texas. I'm the founder of Tucked In Tuesdays. I love kids. I've been in education. I think this is my 16th year. I stopped counting after I started having fun. So it's just like a marriage. You don't count and it seems a little bit better. So I'm just every year I'm embracing everything new that happens. I'm trying to keep up with everything, especially with this virtual school. So
Mhm.
I just wanted to tell every educator that if they are watching and you're thinking, God, she's prepared, that I am wearing my Waterburger pajamas. So the top is professional and the bottom is comfort. So I don't want you to think that you're alone in this working in your t-shirt because mine is just over there. But that's me in a nutshell.
I love it, Belinda. That's what I always love about you. I've always loved your realness, and you're just like, hey, let me tell you how it really is. And so I love that you've got the Whataburger bottoms on. But well, Belinda, whenever I interview an educator, one of the first questions I love to kind of ask is, some of us have grown up knowing we were going to be an educator, while others of us grew up thinking that is not in what I want to be. But then we fall into it and fall in love with it. So where do you fall on the spectrum? Did you know you were going to be an educator when you were younger?
No, I did get a few spankings for writing on the wall. I don't know if that was so much education as much as misbehaving, but I did write on the walls and I did teach stuffed animals. I even drove the bus. I would put a chair in the living room when my mom was mopping the kitchen and chairs behind her. My sisters would get on the bus and I would take them to school. Everything took the school and the bus ride, everything took about 10 minutes, but I was the bus driver, the teacher, the principal, the custodian, and the mom.
Uh-huh.
So I kind of knew I was going to be in education, but I went to college for nursing. And when I went into college, I flunked out because my mom was really strict, and they had clubs when you went to college, and nobody wakes you up for school. So I flunked out my first year, and my mom said, "When you go back, it'll be because you paid."
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm lost the grant because of my grades, and I couldn't reapply for the loan because my mom wouldn't sign off. So I joined the military. And so while in the military, I got involved with all these people, just learning different backgrounds and just being able to connect with people on so many levels. And so I started school at Central Texas College using my MGI bill. And so I got an education, absolutely loved it. So now education is my life. So I kind of wanted to be a teacher in the beginning, but education is where my heart is, most definitely.
I love that. And that's what I always love about you is anytime we talk about anything education, I can tell that every ounce of your being is thinking always about, how can we make things best for kids? And you've always got that mindset, but now as an administrator, I always hear you talk too about, making things as best as possible for your team and kind of growing that. And I know, from personally knowing you and hearing your story before, you had a pretty rough childhood coming up. And so, talk to me a little bit about that and how that plays into the way you work with kids now, knowing they may come from homes that we have no idea what's going on behind the door.
So I will tell you something. I'll let you in on a secret, and I didn't share it. And one of my really good friends said you should share that. When I was born, I had to be revived. I had asthma, so I was born not breathing, so I had to be resuscitated. And I would love for my mom to tell me that story all the time. And I spent most of my my infanthood in an incubator for to help me breathing because my asthma was so bad. So I came here, being a little feisty, learning how to survive at an early age. And so I had five sisters, and I had an amazing mom and an amazing dad. My mom, she was a homemaker. She worked if she had to. She dropped out of school in the 11th grade. My dad dropped out of school in the fifth grade to take care of his dad, which he had polio. And so he took care of all of his siblings, and they all went to school and they all got degrees, or they either all graduated. So my dad was the only one that didn't. But then I had those two parents that told all of us you had to go to college. Motivation, much, right? And so, but we did. My dad was an alcoholic. He doesn't drink anymore. And so him and my mom, they would have fights, and I share that all the time. And he was a weekend alcoholic, a functioning alcoholic. So weekends were horrible. And so Sunday nights when we came home, if we had to run all weekend, when we came home on Sunday night, my mom would get our, curl our hair and put us in bed, and we would go to school dressed like every great kid, like a
Right.
two parent home. We would go to school and our teachers would hug the stinky kid, the kid that misbehaved, and they wouldn't hug us because we were smart. Well, they wouldn't hug me as much as I needed it because I was smart, I was well dressed, and they missed me. They didn't give
Right.
me the hugs I needed. And so that kind of hurt. So now, as an educator, I hug every kid, the stinky,
Right.
the smelly, the misbehaved, the best kid. Everybody gets hugs because as educators, we miss those and we cater to those that are obvious. And I wasn't an obvious kid, but we had a lot going on. But we had to go to school and we had to make A honor roll or A B honor roll. But
Mhm.
my mom and dad, they were sticklers for your education.
Well, and what I love about that story is that it's such a needed reminder that just because kids come well dressed or kids come and they're well behaved and they get great grades, it doesn't mean that they need any less kind of attention or affection than the other kids. And sometimes we get so caught up in this mindset of, oh, well, that kid's misbehaving because it's coming from a difficult home, or that kid smells or doesn't eat or steals food or things like that. So we need to put extra attention into them. And every kid needs attention. And I think that that's such the power that an educator holds, is reminding themselves that every kid needs attention. Well, Belinda, as an administrator, you also started something called Tucked In Tuesdays that went crazy viral. You have got to meet Steve Harvey. You have got to be in, was it Elle magazine, or which one
It was
was it?
Essence Magazine.
Essence
It,
magazine
it was um, Women's World. Essence was the top 100 Black women in America, and
yeah,
Miss Cheryl
you were there with like
was
Oprah. And so
well,
I
Gal
was
King
like,
was in there.
dang, when you're
Michelle
on that Oprah level, you're on a whole nother
no,
level. And so, being a girl with humble beginnings, being in Beaumont's small town, it's big, but it's still not huge like the Houstons or anything like that in Texas. And so talk to me a little bit about how Tucked In Tuesdays began and kind of what your whole mindset is with all this attention on it.
okay, so Stephanie McConnell is like the principal hero of all heroes, if you
Uh-huh.
know her. And so she has this Facebook group, Principals Leadership. I always give her credit for that. And there was a principal that shared that they would be doing bedtime stories. So I borrowed the idea. And I thought my kids won't come to the school. So what I did is I went live from Facebook, put on a jammy, made a little Facebook post, had like 35 guests. I read Red by Michael Hall. It was during Christmas time in front of my Christmas tree. And I interacted with the kids. And the next day the kids were like, I saw that book. Is it an AR book? And I was like, they're getting it. They were watching it. And so I kept doing it and doing it. And here it is a year later. And I only missed one because of a hospital visit that I'll talk about later. When I was in the hospital and I missed it, and my wonderful fans on there started a prayer group, well, a thread
Aw.
on there because they knew something had to be wrong if I missed Tucked In Tuesdays.
I love that. So, you've got to meet some pretty big stars. I mean, Steve Harvey to me is one of the funniest people. And so, do you remember those moments? Are they like clear in your memory, or are they like foggy and you just remember because you saw TV clips?
No, actually, whenever I talk about that, we always say that's so surreal. Well, I had the opportunity, and I'm a living definition of surreal, because what happens is you're there, but you're living it for everyone else, not from yourself. So you're actually like a spectator as well. So it's like an out of body experience. Like when I met them, I thought I would be screaming, but I had this real calmness about me that I felt like this was just natural. And so when I went out, because you don't get to go, they don't come in your dressing room. They don't come in there and talk to you. You
Mhm.
meet the producer, you meet the director, and you don't see them till you go on stage. And then they say 15, 14, and you're like, oh my God, hi, Miss and we're live. And so it's real intense. And good morning. I mean, Sarah and Michael Strahan and
Mhm.
Sarah, that was another one. My favorite story for that is I still don't know his name, but we were backstage and I saw these guys sword fighting on stage. And so he came off stage and he stood next to me and he looked at me and I looked at him and I said, hi. And he said, are you going on next? And I said, yes, I'm next. And he said, good luck. And so he looked and I was like, thanks. You did a great job. So later, one of my friends texted me and asked me if I had met the first guy from Star Wars. What's his
Uh-huh.
name? The character?
Obi-Wan Kenobi, Luke Skywalker.
Who was the first Luke Skywalker?
Oh, oh my gosh, you would ask me and now I go blank. He's been Luke in all of them. He just got older. Yeah, I don't remember what his name is.
Well, I'm gonna look it up real quick because I have to. My friend told me the name. Hold on, I'm googling, of course, and that was him. Like, and I didn't
Uh-uh.
know who he was. Let me get his. If I see his name, I'll go. That definitely was him. Um, what is it? I'm pretty sure it was Luke Scott because I get Star Wars and Jedi confused. You know, I'm not one of those
I
um
understand. I asked my
people.
wife
But
too just a second ago, but she didn't answer me, so I don't know. She's the big Star Wars fan in the house.
Mark Hamill. It was Mark Hamill.
Yes.
Like this close.
Wow.
And I had no. So that was my blind moment. And I guess he was thinking you. So sorry about that, but those moments like that, I think about, God, I missed it. I missed that picture opportunity,
Mhm.
but it wasn't meant for me. That's why I didn't get those. It was meant
Yeah.
for the kids and the purpose. And so that's why I was missed.
I love that mindset though, and but there's so many cool experiences like that, so that's so neat. Well, switching gears a little bit, Belinda, one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize about you is that you suffer from some pretty serious health issues sometimes,
Mhm.
and have for quite a while, and so people would never know that looking on the outside because they see you so active, you're so involved, you're online, you're doing all these things. And so talk to me a little bit about that, what you suffer from and kind of when it started for you.
So I have gastroparesis, which is a rare critical condition. I've been having it. I probably got diagnosed in 2008. And in 2015, it just went haywire. It just went crazy. And so I would eat, and I still eat, and I could drink like a sip of water, and my stomach would grow to that of a 4-month pregnant lady just from a sip of water. And so it got to a point where I wasn't able to eat. We were going to Houston. So then I was down to baby food. I could eat baby food. And then baby food didn't work. So they put me on Gatorade. And what was happening is I would throw up those 5-gallon buckets a day. So then I was just on water and I was like 172 pounds. I was 119 pounds within like a month. So I lost weight. So I was really sick. So I went into Houston and they gave me, tried to put a feeding tube down my nose, but I had sinus surgery, so you can't get that if they've done anything in there. So they told me that I would need a feeding tube. It was a G tube at the time, and my husband was against it because he was like, "No, that's too much." But that was the only way that I could stay alive.
Right.
So I got the G tube, and it was implanted kind of near my pelvis area, and it was like right along your belt line. So that was the worst. And so I got better. So they took it out. They pulled it out. And then I got sick again. So when I got sick again, I couldn't have a way to feed nutrients in because what popular, some people think that with gastroparesis you can't eat. Honey, that's why I got these Whataburger pajamas on. I can eat. When I can eat, I eat. And so I got really ill again. So they put in a GJ tube is right in the middle of my stomach. And if you ever see me again, you'll clearly know that it's there. I'll stand out. So it makes this little buckle here. And
Uh-huh.
some see it. And sometimes I just, tuck it and go. And so it sometimes I have to adjust it so that it's not bulging or they don't think I'm stealing in the stores, because it does
Mhm.
look like I'm carrying something under. So what I do is when I can't eat, I get supplements through it. It's a like a dairy based product, and I get it fed through the tube. And so that provides me with nutrients. Not too long ago, I had a little stint towards the end of the year. I was in that week I missed, I was in the hospital because I got to a point I couldn't eat again. And feeding tubes, whenever you have anything foreign in your body rejects it. And so my body twice rejected it, where it came out, it was like giving birth to my feeding tube. It was horrendous because it comes out. There's a balloon on the other side, but your body just rejects the whole thing. And so it pushes out. So it's a lot of pain with gastroparesis, but and most people are bedridden, but not me. I also have a gastric stimulator that's implanted in my stomach that helps to send voltage to my stomach to help it work, to help with the nausea. And so there's medications that I'm on that sometimes when I'm at work I can't take because it's going to make me sleepy. So I just have to struggle through it. Sometimes my immediate admin team, they'll say you need to go home because you can tell when I'm in pain or hurting or having the spasms. But I stay at work, and that's part of my problem. I let it get so bad to the point where I have to go to ER. So my last stint, I can contribute the haircut to the last stint because it takes your hair out because you're not getting any nutrients. So I was losing hair like crazy. So after it falls out and it creates this Bart Simpson look, you just go ahead and get it cut down. So I got it cut down. So I'm wearing this little teeny weeny afro. And so when I'm doing better, you can tell by my hair.
Mhm.
And right now I'm at a smaller weight. If you saw me last time, I think I was pretty small, but I've lost weight since then. So I'm thinner. I'm like at 126 now. So I'm at one of my lowest weights, but I don't let it stop me because if I give in to gastroparesis, I won't be here. So I have to get up every day and push past my illnesses. And I know a lot of people have illnesses. You have to push past it. And I know it's painful and I know it's hard, but you can do it. And so that's why I don't take no for an answer at all.
Well, and I want to ask some questions about this because I think this is, to me, I've never heard of this before. And when I met you and learned your story, there's just been so much I've learned. And so what I learned through this is that you eat and you still are hungry, but the food doesn't go anywhere. And that's why you said, like your stomach size increases where it looks like you're pregnant, and then it just becomes incredibly painful because that's part of the disease, is that it doesn't allow your body to digest the food,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
And so,
So
and
go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to wait for your other question.
Well, and so then when I'm thinking about that, it's like, and you said that this isn't an always thing. And so are you able to feel it coming on, or do you just eat and you're like, oh, now's the issue again?
I know. I know when it's starting, I can tell my body starts doing really well. I'll start having spasms, these spasms in my stomach. I'll start having a lot of nausea. I'll notice that I can't eat as much. I'll still have an appetite, but I can't eat as much or I eat less. And so when that happens, I automatically go to liquids or tube feedings because I know if I keep eating, it'll just get worse. But what happens is I eat is you do a gastric emptying study. And so when I did mine, 99% of the food stayed. Now, many people have had the barium study where they drink the barium and they watch it go through.
Right.
Well, I did that test. And then a few days later, I did the radiation with the egg, and they put radiation and you eat that. Well, when they went to put the egg in, the barium was still there. So the egg just sat on top and nothing moved. And so that barium gets hard. It gets hard in your stomach. And so I was having pain. And so if you take pain medicine, that slows everything down even more because you have paralysis of the stomach. So pain medicine is not always the best option. It's not eating. And so
Yeah.
when I have those, I don't take pain medicine unless it's severe. But Tylenol is what they give me sometimes in the hospital for the pain, or I don't get anything. I just have to do liquids, or heating pads work as well.
Now, is this something that you can grow out of, or is it with you for the rest of your life?
It's a chronic illness, so it's here uh, forever.
So,
It's
so
here.
my question is then how did this come about? Because did you have any issues growing up with this?
No, my mom actually had gastroparesis, and I'm looking down because there's a picture I want to share. My mom had gastroparesis, and hers wasn't as severe as mine, but she had more of the nausea. Her nausea was more intense. She would throw up a lot, and she would get the big stomach, and she would go to the hospital a lot, but she didn't have the frequency, the inability to eat as often as I did, if that makes sense.
And so, so I'm assuming it's hereditary then. If your mother had it, you
Mhm.
had. Does anybody else in your family also suffer from it?
I have a couple of sisters, an aunt that has it real bad, an aunt that
Mhm.
has it, have two sisters with it currently, but theirs isn't severe. They can take a pill. I used to be like on 8 or 9 pills, and
Wow.
finally, when I got the gastric stimulator, I was able to get off all those pills and just take one because it causes paralysis. Your stomach sometimes does not work at
Mm,
all. It
wow.
doesn't, you can't burp or nothing, nothing works. And so it just kind of stops. I always call it my 13-year-old child, my stomach. I never know what it's going to do.
Well, Belinda, I guess my last question about this topic would just be, how do you, I mean, you're a principal, you're active, you're all about people and connection. And how do you not let this affect you to the point that you just want to curl up and you just want to stop fighting it? Like, how do you keep that motivation to not let the fear of this disease overtake you?
I would have to say a lot of prayer. And my husband, he's wonderful, he's right
Mhm.
there alongside me. But I would have to say it's just my purpose. And I don't believe that my purpose on this earth was to beat gastroparesis. It was to educate kids and work with kids. And so when I keep that in mind, I have this, it's just like, my front pockets, and I talk about my back pocket analogy I did at Tell Your Story. This is just one of those front pocket things that appears to be a back pocket problem, but it's really a corner pocket. And I'll have to elaborate on my corner pocket and back pocket analogy. But I do
I
want
love
to
that.
share this picture. That's my stomach after a sip of water.
Wow.
So that was at my weight when I was a little bit bigger. And so that's the
Well, I
magnitude.
remember when we had Celebrate Your Story at the end of January and you came to speak at it. And that was right after the hospital stint.
Mhm.
You were still barely eating. You were like, hey, I did eat today. I had like a bite of this cracker and now I'm good. And it's wild to me that, there's so many ailments and diseases and things that people go through. And, knowing you and people who watch you online, they would never have any
Mhm.
idea that any of that. And I think it's just a great reminder that even when things look great on the surface, there could be some real struggles happening and there could be some very serious things. But we love our job sometimes so much that's not stopping us from doing what we need to do. And it doesn't look like anything's going on, but we're carrying all this weight. And so I appreciate you kind of sharing that with me today.
We're all glaciers. Some of us bigger than others, but we're all glaciers on the top. Everybody goes ooh ah until you dive deep and you think is this is a mess.
Yeah.
But that's what we are. We have to give off that we have to be that person. And to me, the idea of spreading joy and educating kids and helping people, I'm more rewarded than the person receiving the help.
I love that. Well, Belinda, one question that I always love to end all of these conversations on is, I think as humans, every one of us holds certain beliefs really strongly within our hearts. And so if there was one thing that you wish more people in our world knew or understood, what would your one thing be?
Always find out the why.
Mm.
Like the homeless person, I always give them money. I don't care if they have a car parked. There's a reason they're doing what they're doing. And so finding out the why and talking to people and getting to know why and just putting aside the way we feel and the way we perceive things and the way we were raised and looking and seeing that other people may have a different avenue or a different way of thinking or something may have happened to make them the way they are. And I'm always known for liking people that nobody else likes. And it's because I find out their why. And they turn out to be pretty cool people.
Yeah. I love that. And that is the best way to end this conversation. Well, Belinda, you know I adore you and I just think you are fantastic. And so thank you for coming on and sharing some of your story today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you, everybody, for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your stuff, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Belinda has encouraged you to get out there and tell your story because every story matters.